All right. Welcome, Dina, to the Fempreneur podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to chatting with you.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to getting to know all about how you started your business, why you started your business, and of course, I want
Uh-huh.
you to share with our listeners what your business is. So dive
hmm
in anywhere you want.
So, how I started my business, I have been styling in television for close to 30 years. So, a very, very long time. And it was really kind of during the pandemic when I realized, what am I going to do now? Like the world was shutting down. We weren't taping. I mean, that actually worked out okay because I ended up working all through the pandemic. But during that time, things were slower. And I decided, well, obviously, I have skills that I've literally dressed thousands of men and women over the years, all different sizes of shapes and bodies and things like that. And I was like, there's a whole group of people out there, watching everybody online, going to networking things that really could use the help in
Yeah.
personal branding. And one of the things that I like to say is I try to help people tell their story through style. So where that comes from, or that part of my story comes from, is that when I work in television, I do a lot of stuff on either talk shows, but I've done tons and tons of game shows over the years. And one of the first things that happens, processes that happens, is I work with the producers and they're like, okay, I'm like, what's their story? So a contestant's coming on, right? We have to immediately understand who they are. So, they have the story to tell, but visually, when we see them, they need to look like who they say they are. And
Mhm.
so in life, there's so many personal brands and entrepreneurs that I see who don't look like who they are. And I thought, you know what, this is a really great way to be able to help them because I love doing it and people get such results from it because all of a sudden they see themselves in a different way and they start showing up differently. So that's kind of how I ended up here.
Okay. Well, yeah. When I don't remember how I found you on Instagram, but I think it was Instagram where I found you, and I saw some of your stuff, and I was like, I love how she's explaining this because I have always struggled with this whole "what's my style" thing. Like
Right.
in high
Mhm.
school, I would go to the hunting store and buy camouflage pieces and then the bright orange fuzzy backpack. Like every year I
Uh-huh.
needed the bright orange, like the hunting backpack, right?
Uh-huh.
And because I've always been pretty outdoorsy. But I also wore like I was in sewing class and I would make some of my clothes and my both of my grandmas
Mhm.
sewed and so I was making clothes and there was just this a constant very all over the place mix of what I wanted to
Mhm.
wear and what I was
Mhm.
attracted to. And it was like
Mhm.
one day I felt like wearing a certain sort of style, if you could call it that, and then another day another thing. And that's just continued into my adult life. And
Mhm.
then now with all of the branding photo shoots I get done for my business and speaking and being on camera as much as I am, I'm always like, what's my style? And when I get kind of like, I don't know, when I get kind of confused over what my style is that day, I
Mhm.
literally just throw on a black tank top.
Right. Well, I guess it works.
I don't
But
know. I
yeah,
don't
that is one of the things that I think a lot of people get stuck with. No one really teaches you how to do this, right? You just grow up, like you're saying, going to the store and getting dressed and pulling things you're drawn to. But then we realize as we get older in life, like when you're doing things like branding shoots and getting in front of people, you realize this kind of has to make a little bit more sense than just making me feel good on a whim, right? And so I think like you, I dress differently in different places. But what I find helps people is having like some sort of through line so
Mhm.
that wherever they go, there's something that makes sense. There's something that seems, and if it's black or a black tank or something, like she's always in that, sometimes we see there's a woman out there who always wears everything is pink, like the confidence, I can't think of her name, but it's always like pink suits, pink shirts, pink hats, pink everything, right? So that's kind of her through line. And she wears all different kinds of things, right? So I also think you can in your life, like I do like a variety of things. I like a little bit of boho over here, but I like a classic thing over here. And then, like a little edgy rocker stuff. And so my through line for me is I stick to, besides the fact I'm wearing bright orange right now, I do stick to kind of classic colors. That's kind of where I live. But I always have like jewelry or glasses. It's a thing that when people see me, they get, oh, yeah, there she is. Like it doesn't look like a completely different person. It just looks like a person with like a little bit of a twist. Tell people like, when you go to and I love music, so I make a lot of music references. when you're dressing to go to a country show versus a, I don't know, some kind of emo music or something, you're going to dress differently, right? Because you dress kind of the way the crowd is there. And so
Mhm,
that's what I tell people based on your audience, you want to dress to kind of not fit in, but attract those people that you
mhm.
want to attract by the way you look. And that is like a very first, very quick and easy way. Be like, oh, I get them. Oh, I want to know more about them. Or when you say what you do, they understand. It makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think too, it is that mood thing too that we can't always explain, but like you said, when you're gonna go to a country concert, you're going to probably get excited about dressing in a way that you couldn't necessarily dress if you were
Mhm.
going to the opera or if you're going to your grandma's 90th birthday. I mean, I could dress like that on my grandma's 90th birthday, but some people would have to dress up a little more. And I think that but the through line thing, I found that very interesting.
Mhm.
And I relate to the glasses. I'm not wearing glasses today, but I have been starting to switch it up between glasses and no glasses. But I have a lot of glasses, and that's another thing that drew me to you is I could relate to that. I was like, I get comments about my glasses all the time,
Right.
and people are starting to sort of associate that with me. And then when it comes to people's brand colors, because let's talk specifically about entrepreneurs because this is the Fempreneur podcast.
Mhm.
Do you recommend that they wear their brand color or does it matter? Like how do you feel about the brand color thing?
I am, I'm it's a little bit controversial because, talk to any branding person and they're going to say, wear your brand colors. But not everyone's brand colors work with them. They don't like internally vibe with who they are. Like there's some colors I have in my brand that I don't wear, right? Or some people think. I think you can but you don't have to. I think when you're doing a photo shoot, one of the reasons the branding people want you to wear the colors is because every page of your site will look the same and your website will have all the colors. And that makes sense and I get that and there's definitely something to be said that makes that seamless. But there's also a way of just having colors that work with your brand colors, right? That they're as long as they're not competing or, contrasting or clashing with your brand colors, I
Yeah.
don't think you have to. And I
Okay.
think sometimes people don't wear their brand colors. And I actually did a video on this the other day, and they try to like throw in an earring or throw on a this just to fill that hole of I don't have my brand colors and I don't like them or I don't like to wear them. I don't
Yeah.
think you should because I think that comes across that way. It doesn't come across as authentic. So I am not the person that says you have to. I think it's great if you can because it
Yeah.
does look beautiful, but I don't think you have to.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. I want to go back to childhood Dina. I want to find out what you were
Mhm.
like, when you started choosing your outfits and maybe just some things that you noticed about yourself being drawn to this industry. And
Mhm.
then I want to talk about fempreneur Dina and at what point in your life did you permanently make that switch into being an entrepreneur versus being an employee? So hit whichever of those you want to first in whatever order.
So I think, younger Dina, I wasn't the girl playing dress up in her closet all the time. I just wasn't. But I was raised with a super stylish mom, and a stylish dad. And I wouldn't say he's like Mr. Style, but he like got dressed in suits for work. They got dressed when they went out to dinners. So I was always raised with, we're going here, you have to look this way. We're going there, you have to look that way. So that was always a key thing kind of in my head. And when I think what really kind of clicked for me in my head was kind of in those nasty old high school years. And I had some curves and I was around in the jean when the first designer jeans came out that were super straight and super this and they just didn't look good on me. And so everyone's wearing that and I couldn't wear it and I was just like, well, what am I going to do? you know? And I call it like the pants moment. And I went to, this one store that I don't normally shop and I found a rounder of jeans and they had more of like it's kind of more of a current jean. It's like a little bit wider leg, a little bit straighter, fall from the hip. And I put them on, just oh, let me try these on. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh, all of a sudden, I felt like me, and I felt like I looked like me, and that's where I discovered there was like the power of clothes. And I think at that moment too, I always talk about Like, do you, don't hop on every trend because you're always going to be chasing things, that may be you or may not be you. But work, really important to work with your body and what works with that. And that it was at that point, I was like, okay, everyone's wearing that and they look great, but I'm wearing this and I look great now too, So I just at that moment didn't feel less than any longer. And that kind of started my, okay, well, let me see this, let me see that. And that's when I started like dip my toe into all of this stuff. And then second question was entrepreneur, Dina.
Yeah.
So my, I feel like I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. I've kind of had little things here and there, but really the styling for me, has been an entrepreneurial journey because you don't just get hired. It's not like a job. So for all these years that I've been styling, I've gone from production to production to production. So it really is kind of just like, gig economy, if you will,
Mhm.
in that you have to kind of manage your business and manage your all of the things, make the reach outs on the regular basis, all the things you would do with a regular business, but doing it in a production way. And then, like I said, when it came to during the pandemic, where I wanted to sort of broaden my reach and broaden what I did, that's really when I said, well, you know what? I'm going to start working with people to help them do what I do. I do it all day, every day. And there's so many people who need it out there because I think there is a lot of confusion. I think there's so many influencers out there whose job is to influence and sell you goods. And, that's how they make a living. And that's not poo-pooing or shaming that, but it's different than a stylist whose job is to make you look good in what looks good on you
Right.
versus I have this stuff I've got to sell to you. So I
Right.
think there's a little bit of a disconnect there. People
Yeah.
get confused by that.
Yeah, yeah, like, I haven't really come across anyone like you on social media is the other thing, like,
Mhm.
you really stand out. Your message is very much like you just said, it's not about the trend, and don't jump on
Mhm.
all of the trends is kind of your
Mhm.
message. It's like, you've gotta find
Mhm.
what works for your body type and for
Mhm.
your comfort and your natural
Mhm.
personality, and then if you're an entrepreneur, you've gotta take that kind of one level higher because you're just
Mhm.
going to be out there and associated with what you do for a living, and your
Mhm.
style is part of that. And like, so I guess I've just never really taken the whole style or clothing thing very seriously. And I've also been, I guess, a little frustrated with it at times because I too have a
Mhm.
really hard time finding jeans.
Mhm.
And I'm actually
That's
going to,
universal.
okay,
If you
okay, good
find
to
good
know.
ones, buy two.
Okay, because I'm like, okay, yeah. Anyways, that's actually interesting. It makes sense that everyone has that problem, but
Yeah.
I'm also kind of kiboshing wearing jeans. I'm gonna be living in Mexico most of the winter for the first
Oh,
time in
wow.
my life, so I'm pretty excited
Mhm.
about wearing my favorite thing almost every day, which is a black tank top and cutoffs. Like,
I
I'm
love
pretty
it.
excited about it. But, yeah, so I wanted to ask you more about, just going from show to show. Like, has your business really grown just through building relationships and getting referrals and getting
Yeah.
contracts, and like, what are some of the
Mhm.
marketing things that you've done to maybe build new relationships in that industry to get more gigs and contracts?
I have been in that industry. I've been super fortunate. It has been really word of mouth, and I've really just gone from show to show to show to show. So when I made the move over to, this sort of other aspect that I'm adding in now, because I'm still on shows and I still do shows now. I'm working on America's Got Talent right now. And I just Howie Mandel and I work with the judges and things. But it is a bit of a thing because I have to actually go out and talk to people more. It's not just like, hey, this, because not everybody knows I do this. Everybody knows I do it for television. They don't all know that. So there is a little bit of a, getting on the horn, if you will, posting on social, going to more networking events,
Yeah.
asking for referrals, doing all the things that all the entrepreneurs do and growing it that way, kind of organically. I'm not I'm not, and I probably will never be like a salesy person,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
just
you
like,
don't strike me as that.
I'm just not.
Yeah.
You either get me and want me or you don't, and that's fine,
Yeah.
you know? That's
Yeah.
just kind of where I live because I know I just love what I do and I know I can help people, but not everybody wants to be helped,
Right.
So,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, you're definitely not marketing your business to everyone because it's not for everyone.
No. Mm-mm.
I'm curious to know more about, I guess, that bridge from like, "Ooh, I can do this. Ooh, I want to do this. Ooh, I'm doing this." Like, how
Mhm.
did you get that first gig?
You know, it's kind of fibbed my way into it. I had a series of jobs, and it was more about what I didn't want to do than what I did want to do.
Mhm,
So when I had first started working, years ago in New York, I was working for a garment manufacturer, Gitano, which was a big denim brand.
mhm.
And I was working in the advertising department, and we did all the photo shoots with the models and things like that. So that was kind of, and I just landed in that job because I'd gone to school for communications. And so that was where I started working around the industry. Granted, it wasn't TV and it wasn't kind of on camera stuff, but it was working with, again, models and doing polls from different brands and things like that and getting press for them. And then when I moved out to California, I ended up working. I went back to school. I actually thought I wanted to have a store. I was like, oh, this would be fun. And I went back to school for merchandising, fashion merchandising. And then, through another series of jobs, the last job I had had before I kind of got into this, I was working with a woman who set up wardrobe trade outs for television. So at the end of the television shows, sometimes you still see it, not as much now, but years ago, it would say so and so's wardrobe provided by, and it would be the brand. So I worked for the woman who actually started that in the industry. And because of my history in New York and knowing all of the vendors, all of the brands and stuff, it was like a really good match. So we would get these shows would come into us, and then I would find the brands that would want to provide clothes for their hosts or their guests. And one of the shows came in, it was a talk show, and it was Vicki Lawrence's talk show actually. And we went in and we were just like, we can do all of this, And it was like we had done shows, but we hadn't done shows in the way like being on set. But the woman that I worked with, my friend Joanne Lavin, who's also a stylist, we're like, we can do this and we can just do all of it. And so that's how we took the meeting, and they were interested, and they were like, yeah, you'll do the trade outs, you'll do the styling, you'll do everything. And we're like, okay, great. And then there was a little bit of a like, what do I do on set? But it was great. And there was no hiccups, there was no anything because we could do all the things we needed to do. The tricks on set are nothing. Like that's so easily learned. I got together with a stylist friend, and she's like, "Get this is your kit, this is your thing, and you're good to go." So it was kind of like in a day, I knew everything I needed to know about that part of it because I already had the other background. The
Yeah.
styling was there. I just needed that.
So what's in the kit? What's in the kit?
The kit has all kinds of stuff that you would have like in oh my gosh moments. So there's top stick, which is double face tape. You've probably seen it as fashion tape. There's lint rollers, there's sweater shavers, there's black gaff tape, which is like that comes in handy so many times. It's just like, oh my gosh, something is not working. If something tears or rips, or you have to hem somebody's pants really fast. Safety pins, mini safety pins, little pre-sewing kits. We do a live show. So I'm like I said, I'm on America's Got Talent. Somebody's zipper breaks, you're like, whoosh, you're whipping it up fast, things like that. Shoe shine sponges, glasses cleaners, all kinds of stuff. It's like a bag of magic tricks. It's just
Nice.
like whatever you need is in there.
Oh, wow, that's so cool. And so you live and work in New York and have forever and ever.
So no, I'm in LA. So
Oh, you're in LA now.
I was in New York and I moved out to LA, and that's where I started in this business. That's when I kind of went back to
Okay.
merchandising school, and that's when I worked with the woman who was in the television industry setting up the trade out. So I've been here for like 30 something years, 32 years, something like that.
So you've been working on America's Got Talent for how
Mhm.
long now?
Yeah, I think this is my 10th season. Yeah.
Wow, 10 seasons,
Mhm.
cool. And so you were saying that you've been on a lot of talk shows, probably
Mhm.
similar to America's Got Talent, where you've got these people coming in that you
Mhm.
don't know them, and you're
Right.
trying to tell their story through their style. Can you give us
Mhm.
an example of that or tell us a
Yeah.
story about someone?
Yeah. So in game shows, you do more of that than on the talk shows. And so, when you are watching any kind of game shows, like I did Deal or No Deals for years. I'm the one who did the show with the cases with the models and everything else. But when a contestant comes on, they really want the people watching to understand who the person is, where they're from, what their background is. So, we've had people come on and it's like, well, they don't look like that. They don't look like a teacher from Iowa, you know? And so when I say that, probably you get maybe a vision in your head. Maybe it's like a little cardigan and, you know, she's a second grade teacher and maybe it's a cardigan and maybe it's like a soft color. It's definitely not revealing. It's a little bit modest, you know. Or there is a trucker from Indiana, you know, and he is, you know, going to be a little bit more rough around the edges in his dress. It's going to be like a blue jean and maybe you know, a denim jacket and shirt or something like that. So it's like when you see people, and I don't know if normal people do this, but like sometimes don't you see somebody out and you have immediately you think in your head like a story about them? So it's like what I do is kind of craft that story from the other side. Like, what do people need to see to understand that's who that person is? You
Yeah.
know, I always say, like, I like to use the women on Selling Sunset as an example too, because I think that they look like exactly who they are and what they do. They sell these, and Amanza, who was one of the models on Deal, who I adore, she does it really great. But they have these very expensive homes in these very, you know, affluent areas. Everything is just glamour and all the things. And they look like they belong there when they're selling those things, right? They look like they're customers. They look like the houses they sell. They're sexy, they're modern, it's fresh, it's all the things. So I think that that's like a really good example of
Mhm.
somebody who looks like what they do, you know?
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. So most people who are on TV, if not all
Mhm,
people who are on TV, have someone like you on the
mhm.
payroll
Oh,
that
yeah.
is in charge of everything that they wear
Mhm.
and doesn't even have to go shopping for themselves,
No.
basically, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
That is
I
so
mean,
cool.
I would say not all of them do. I mean, in
Yeah, all
some
of them.
way, shape, or form. Even if it's a lot of newscasters do their own stuff because there's something to do with the news where you can't, I don't know. But they'll have a personal shopper or a stylist that they take, you know, they deal with off camera that they handle. But yeah, if you're on camera, because there's a lot to it. I mean, you don't think about it when you go shopping, you know, the weeding through the things. They don't have the sizes. They don't have the right colors. You know, not everything that looks good on you is around all the time. How many
Mhm.
times have you gone shopping and you can't find a thing, right? And then other times you're like, oh my gosh, my color is in. I better buy everything in sight, you know, or my style is in. I better
Yeah.
buy everything in sight. So they're working these jobs, and you know, television is generally and film long hours
Mhm.
that you're away from places. You don't have a lot of time to do that.
Mhm.
And because it's important. It really matters.
Yeah.
So if it didn't matter, they wouldn't hire people to do it, you know?
Yeah.
I was in a mastermind and I was going back and forth with the people in the mastermind. They're saying, Dina, you're a luxury service. And I'm like, no, I'm a necessity. And they're like, no, you're a luxury service. I'm like, I am on every call sheet. And that's because I am needed. And they're like, but not everyone can kind of afford that. And I said, and I do see that point, but the truth of it is it's both. So,
Yeah.
yes, it's maybe a luxury to work with a stylist. Not everybody
Mhm.
can do that, but it truly is a necessity to nail your image and nail your brand, especially when you're going out there in the world and selling, you know, yourself as a coach or whatever your product is or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because it's that immediate connection. It can talk before you talk, right? It's
Yeah.
like when people see you, like when people see me, my style doesn't scream. Lots of stylists scream that when you look at them, they must be something in fashion or style. My style is not that way. I'm not over the top. But I will say, whenever I tell people what it is, they go, "Oh, that makes sense."
Yeah.
And it's because it's put together, it's finished, it's all the things, right? It doesn't scream, but it's makes sense. And that's what I try to do for people, help them make sense when they go someplace, whether it's on a stage or a networking event. Or look, I say this even because I think just life is your personal brand, right? You're going everywhere you're going, you're you. So like even if you're looking to go start dating again, like what do you want to sell? You know what I mean? I want to sell whatever that is, you know, approachable or sexy or expensive or whatever. We're
Yeah.
always selling something to someone.
Yeah. Wow. Oh my gosh, this is so fun. I could talk to you for hours. So, okay, so you do work on a show right now, so
Yeah.
that's like taking up most of your time, I'm
Mhm.
assuming.
Yeah.
But you also have, we'll call them one-on-one clients from the
Yes. Yeah.
coaching world. So these
Yes.
are, you have a certain number that you have enough time in your life for, and you
Yes.
kind of
Mm,
have a wait list maybe for when those people drop
yes.
off.
Yeah,
Tell
exactly,
us
and so
more
I
about
do
that.
so I worked in 2 different ways. So I work with people one-on-one where it's a complete, like, done for you service where, we meet up, and it's kind of like both things that I do start the same way, the same process. It's one is kind of a more DIY virtual service, but both of them start with me when I connect with people. Really, I give them a questionnaire because I really need to kind of dig into their psyche. What are their goals? What is their industry? What do they like? What do they not like? What are they drawn to? Um, and I also have them do like send me pictures of things that you love yourself in. Like, what are the things? And I'm like, it doesn't matter if it's a tutu or, a suit. It just gives me a little bit of a window into like who you are as a person, as a human being.
Yeah.
Because I really think, if you don't put on stuff that makes you feel good about yourself, you're just never going to pull it off. And you're going to be up there. Like I've had so many people saying, oh my gosh, now I'm hitting stage and I feel so good. Whereas before I was like pulling on my thing or thinking, are they looking at my shoes? Are these the wrong shoes for this dress or things like that? So I have to really get a peek into your psyche. And then I also have people, and again, I do this with both. And this is really what I suggest people do for themselves if they're not going to work with a stylist. Like, if you're going to be like, how do I do this? I tell people to do this for yourself, come up with words. How do you want to be perceived? I want to be perceived as powerful, as approachable, or a luxury service, or things like that, and how do I want to feel? Right. And something, it's confident, it's powerful, it's sexy, whatever those words are. And take those, kind of look at the things that you've been wearing. Do they speak to those words or do they not speak to those words?
Mm,
And most of the times, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
right.
And then I also have people dig into and send me just pictures of things that they like other people in. Like, what do those words mean to you? Like, what styles do you like? And sometimes there's like a disconnect between what they're drawn to and what they're saying that they want to be or how they want to be perceived.
Mhm.
And then we have to get together and go, okay, so what's more important here? Like, how do we get there? And being a stylist, and doing this for so long for so many people, it's easier for me to pull out once they tell me what those words are. And when I see the style, I'm like, okay, this is how I can make this work for them. Sometimes people don't know how to make that jump
Yeah.
and they're all over the place. But then I would say, find like one little lane in your life. Like, is it your speaking clothes? Is it your brand shoot? Is it, your podcasting wardrobe? And just start there. I mean, another tip I try to give people too when they're just kind of starting out and trying to figure it out, if you're like meeting with clients and thing, I'm like, have one amazing first client outfit. You only ever meet everybody once for the first time. Like,
Oh,
make that the outfit, right? If you know you're it's good, it's whatever, because sometimes you have to build, if you're starting from nothing and you have to build an entire wardrobe, do that. You know what I mean? Look, if you only have 3 meetings with people, have 3 dang outfits. It's just like,
yeah.
as long as you're not broadcasting it everywhere,
Yeah.
they're only gonna see you once or twice or 3 times. But then you start to build your muscle. What do I like and what looks good on me? And you start to test the waters, you know? So when I work with people as a stylist, for me, again, one on one, I will come in with racks of clothing and you can end up with a lot of stuff at once because I'm doing a big shop and we're putting it all together or making the outfits and you're seeing it all at once. But again, for people that are trying to do it on their own who may not have access to a stylist or just, can't pull the trigger right now,
Yeah.
that's what I say. Start small and just keep growing on it, because your wardrobe, even if you work with me one on one or a stylist one on one, you're going to have to add in again later. So you
Yeah.
either go back to the stylist or build on that, but it's constantly evolving and changing. You can't just think it's ever going to be done because it's
Yeah.
just not.
Well, yeah, and that's so 2 questions. One is, how did you start pricing your services as a
Mhm,
one-on-one,
mhm,
stylist for
mhm,
the stars or for the rich and
mhm,
famous or whoever
mhm.
hires you? I don't know. But, like, how did you figure out what to charge? And then how did you figure out kind of how to package your different ways of working with you?
So the pricing structure came from, obviously you look at the marketplace. Obviously you look at where do I fit within all of this? Where does my expertise fit in all of this? You know, there's many stylists who are a lot less expensive than me, but they also have a lot less experience than I do. They also don't have experience with people on cameras, on stages, doing book. Like I've done all that for years, you know, with high level people. So in that way, I know, okay, then I can price myself according to that versus, you know, somebody that's doing this for 3 years and saying they do this. I've done it. What was the other question?
Well, the other question was that was the pricing, and then the packages. Like
Oh,
for
yeah.
example, do you have people that hire you whenever they feel like they need a wardrobe refresh, or do you charge a monthly fee for some clients and you just see them once a month? Like, what do the different packages look like?
So both. So when you work with me, you either start with the one-on-one or like I said, kind of the DIY, the virtual service, which is, you know, we work together, we definitely get on Zoom, we do all the beginning package, but then rather than me going and shopping and us getting together live in person, I'll send you links and you'll go through and things like that. Um, so that's kind of the two ways I work with people. But once I've done that with you, then you can stay on a monthly retainer. So that works for kind of like the middle months, but you know, then you may need a big package again. You know, it's like we've done it for fall, now we need it for the spring, summer, right? Or some people have a real need for a lot of clothes. They're constantly being seen. They don't want to be seen in the same things all the time. Those people, there's a monthly. But also the people that just do the big packages, there's a smaller monthly because I also don't want people to feel like I don't know what to do with this. Like I'm stuck or I'm going someplace. When I
Mm,
work with people, it on the one-on-ones, it's generally kind of like um a 3 month. We get you dialed in that first month. I get all the clothes, we do the fitting, we do all the things. But then I kind of stay and hold your hand and like, what do you have coming up? And I calendar it out for you. Okay, you've got a shoot here, you've got a podcast there, you're going on stage, you're going to a networking event. And then I'll help calendar it out. And I actually have a little app on the phone so we can like put the stuff on the calendar in your phone with pictures of you wearing it. Like wear this there,
uh,
you know? Or someone can text me and say, like, I've got this coming up, does this work? So it's kind of like that. So it's either like a bigger monthly where you really need me to constantly be shopping for you,
yeah,
or it's like we've done all the stuff and I just need a little support.
right. When you're shopping for clients, is it mostly you physically going into the stores, or are you doing a lot of it just online shopping?
I do a combination. If they're local, I do a combination no matter what I'm doing. I mean, I'm lying saying if they're local. I do a combination no matter because not everything is available everywhere. I mean, you can go into two different, you know, Neiman's or something, and they kind of have completely different items. Like there's
Okay.
one out by us in Topanga, and then there's one in Beverly Hills, and you'll find things in both stores that don't exist in the other store. But also the thing about online shopping is you can really shop globally.
Mm,
So there's, you know, Farfetch or MyTrees, or they pull from all over the world and you have access. So like you go to a store, you know, say you're going to your local Bloomingdale's and they don't have your size 6 pant, well, online, they've got all the stuff. And so
right.
you don't see, you only see what's in that store because every buyer is different for every area and for every store. So that's why online shopping can be more beneficial because I can cover so much more ground when I'm
Right.
shopping online than I can going store to store to store. But I still do like going in store because sometimes you'll, as you know, you'll get things and it doesn't look quite right. It doesn't, the fabric is different, the sizing is off. And that's just something that comes with online shopping. You just got to kind of deal with it. I always suggest people try to, if they can, like get your measurements because you may I look, I've got pants in my closet that are a 2 and I've got pants in my closet that are a 10. And it's just like you can't
Yeah.
know what's going to work. So I always say like take your measurements, go online, order by the measurements. They always say on the side when you like click down size guide
Yeah.
or look in the comments when people say it runs big or it runs small. And no, don't be like, this is it. I'm good. Like, no, order a
Yeah.
few and then just know you have to return them. Sometimes people are like, oh, I don't want to because I have to return. But to me, to have it show up on my step and then just have to take it back, usually you get, you know, a free shipping back or whatever it is, rather than have to get in your car and go place to place to place. It's a much easier, you know, getting through that, especially when you have to get a lot of clothes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. it's just so cool to hear you talking about this because you can just see and feel how much you love what you do
Oh,
and
I
how much
do.
joy, yeah, how much
I
joy you're
do.
getting out of it. And
I
also your
do.
clients are just, oh my gosh, it must be such a relief for them to meet you and to find you and to have you helping them. Speaking
Yeah,
of helping them, who's helping you? Do you have a team? Do you have employees? Like,
I
what
do.
does
I
that kind of
do.
growth phase of your business look like? At what point were you like, holy crap, I need to hire a bunch of people?
Well,
Like,
it's funny because when I really started in the personal world versus the television world, I pretty much took my TV team with me. So everybody that's coming is really seasoned. It's not like I'm just pulling people. They're all professional and have been in this business for years. And so we all have the eye. I mean, I think one of the things that I've learned over the years is, what works on television is going to be different than works on stage. Not always, but maybe, it's like
mhm,
we know what to look for. So I haven't had to find people just like on the fly because I have my assistant who's, my right arm. I can't do anything without her. I always tell my kids, like, if I die, like, don't go to Christina because she knows everything about me and my life. She's got all my passwords, everything, she can run my business.
yeah,
Um, but so I have just a slew of people that I can pull from if somebody's not available or whatever. So I do have a team, and it's generally me plus two plus a tailor that I work with. But that can vary. The people might change, but Christina never changes. My right hand never changes.
okay. So she's like your main person, and everyone else is
Yeah.
kind of contract based. You pull
Yeah,
them when you need them.
exactly, exactly,
Okay,
and I
that's
try
really
to
cool.
stay consistent, but again, people have lives if I'm not using them every day. It's
Yeah.
just like, "Okay, go do that," and again, I think coming from the world that I come from, I
Mhm.
understand, that I may not be the first priority because they have something else that's coming up. They've got a gig that's coming up as well, they're all
Yeah.
booked and busy as well, so, yeah,
Okay. And what are the key differences between living in New York and living in LA? Like did you want to move to LA? Were you
yeah.
kind of begrudgingly having to move to LA
Oh,
or
no, no, no,
just
no.
no?
I had always wanted to come to LA. I have no idea why. Well, I kind of have a theory why, because I always loved the beach. Like I actually grew up in Jersey. I was living in New York when I moved here, but I grew up in Jersey, and we had a summer house down the shore, and that was always my favorite time of year. And I just loved the ocean and the water. And like if you said ocean or mountains, I'd pick ocean. And
Mhm.
so I thought, "Oh, if I move to LA, it's every day is gonna be like that," you know? Well, it's not, I grew up had to have a life. But that's what brought me out here. So I've been here for years and I love it. So I willingly came. I drove across country in my little Datsun with my mom. She drove me across country. My parents were super supportive. I moved out like it was right after college.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I've been
So
here
then
for
you
many
had
years.
your kids there in LA and
Yeah,
they've been raised there. How
yeah,
many kids
yeah.
do you have?
I have 2 kids. My one daughter is, 22. She is actually living in London. I'm gonna go see her in a few weeks. She went to school there for architecture, and then I have a son who's 19 who's going to school, and he lives at home right now.
Oh
But
my gosh.
both of them have that entrepreneurial spirit. They both do, which is great. Yeah,
Nice.
I love it.
And they've grown up seeing mom
Yeah,
running an amazing business, so they kinda
yeah,
know how it goes.
yeah.
That's fantastic. What would you tell
Yeah, they
your
know it's not an on and off and that you, like, close the door and you're done for the day. No, then Lucas is like, "You're on your laptop again." I'm like he says when I go to the beach and I'm like, "I'm going to the beach." He's like, "Mom, it's not really relaxing if you're bringing your laptop." I'm like, "Well, I could be sitting behind a desk and working on my laptop, so why?" I think it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah, option A is not beach,
Exactly.
and option B is beach.
Exact
Either
beach
way,
and
laptop
laptop.
is coming.
Exactly. Exactly.
What would you tell your 10-year younger self, Dina, about business, about life, anything?
I would say, roll with it and just keep going because especially like what I learned through my TV life is that you're literally only one phone call away from your entire life changing, literally. So, like, don't give up on the dreams, don't give up with the hopes, and just, keep going. And yeah, that's
Okay.
it.
Okay, awesome. And can you tell us about maybe I don't want to say darker time, but just like a really hard time in your business that maybe was pivotal to the point where you were going to quit or you thought you were going to have to shut her down for some reason out of your control. Like What happened? How did you get away from it, pivot, whatever?
I think it really was the pandemic for me because I had been so consistent in my television world for so many years. I was like super blessed with that. And when that happened, like everything did shut down. I was literally on a set and they're like, okay, everybody go home. The world is closing. I had to put my daughter on a plane during the pandemic, like sight unseen. Like it was a whole thing. And I was just like, what am I going to do if this doesn't come back? Like, we don't know how. I thought it was going to be 2 weeks. 2 weeks, it'll be fine. We'll be back to work. And then it wasn't 2 weeks. And again, I was fortunate enough to come back sooner than a lot of other people. But that's really when I thought, you know what? If I'm not getting hired for a show, I have no source of it. I don't have a way to make work in television. This is a way for me to like make work. There's people out there that need this service. There's people out there that I can help. And so that for me was kind of like the light bulb moment of I want to add this portion into my life, and I want to really work with people because like you're saying, I do love what I do. So to not do it, I feel like there's a part of me that's not tapped into. And I tell people like this in anything that they do in their career, and as working moms especially, I feel like moms sometimes beat themselves up like I'm over here, I'm over there, I don't know what I'm doing. It's crazy, but it is crazy and it's going to be crazy. But there's a part of you that is lit up and gets on fire with what you do because that's just you. It's not your husband, it's not your kid, it's not your parent, it's just you. And I'm like, that's the thing that kinda keeps you going in that notion, you know? So, I got off on a tangent there, I'm sorry. But, I mean, that's truly what I kinda feel about all that. There's not really a balance and just, figuring out what can I do that can keep, me going and lights me up and all the things is that, and that was a way for me to do it, was really just, let me just start working with real people because 'Cause I've done it for so many years anyway with the contestants. They're not celebrities, all those other people. I mean, I work with the celebrities, all the hosts and celebrities,
Yeah.
but there's just so many real people. And I think working with them on those shows is almost more gratifying than working with the celebrities because the celebrities are used to it.
Yeah.
And these people come in with kind of not really an expectation, they're kind of taught, to bring your own stuff and we always change it because, the producers want to see like camera ready, which is a little bit elevated version.
Yeah.
But to see them think, "I don't know about that, I don't know," I'm like, "Just try it. Trust me, I'm not sending you anywhere with you not feeling good in what you're doing." And then to see them come out and, like, see themselves differently and, like, light up in a way, it's just it's pivotal for people, you know? I've had people that come back to me years later, they're just like, "You literally changed my life," and it feels really good.
Yeah, I can't even imagine the number of people that would be feeling that way about you. Like, how
Yeah.
many people have you styled, do you think?
Thousands. I mean, I
Thousands.
couldn't even put a
Yeah,
exact number in it, thousands, because 'cause I've been
thousands
doing
of
it for so long, and when you're doing shows like that, like, I'll have mornings on a game show, and it'll be like, "Okay, I have an hour to just 20 people for camera ready," like, prime time shows that they have to look a certain way, and I'm just like, "Boom, boom, you get this, do this, da 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 da," and so years of that, and seasons of that on shows and whatever, it's thousands of people.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah,
so cool. That's so
it's
cool. I
fun.
mean, just for you to give them that gift of looking in the mirror and
Yeah,
then feeling the way they feel in those
yeah,
clothes with that look
yeah,
and
yeah,
not even realizing that they could feel like that and then setting the
exactly.
bar for their life going forward and then they think about you every time. Like,
Yeah,
that's so cool.
it really is, and it's just I've had people like I'm big on belts and people I can't wear belts, I can't, and all of a sudden they wear belts. But one woman that like kind of sticks out in my mind, she was in literal tears, and she was like little. She was a thin woman. She was probably like a size 4 or something like that. And I gave her shapewear because whatever she was wearing, and I believe in shapewear. It's just like if clothes should you just feel better when your clothes, and I don't wear them all the time, but certain things you need it, you
Yeah.
know? And she literally was crying, and she's like, "What is like, we'll fix it. What's the matter?"
Yeah.
I
You're
thought it
like,
was
great, now
bad
we have to
tears.
redo your makeup.
Yeah, and she was just like, I didn't know this existed. I didn't know I could feel this good. Like ever since I had my children, I've not been happy with like the way I look in my clothes and, just this simple thing that you gave me has been like, this is life changing right here. I'm like, it's a shaper, like for
Yeah.
me, things like that, little things, or somebody else, another woman that I had, on another show. She was actually one of the contestants on a show also. It was a dating show, and she always wore these. She was a super fiery and super energetic, and it was back in the day, and she always wore these very like big, baggy and looser clothes and this and that. I'm like, what are you doing? And she was fighting me. And this show went on and on. They were kind of like a cast, almost like a date, like a Big Brother would be, that type of show. Can't even think of the name of the show. Um, and she was fighting me on it, and I'm like, I want you to look your best, and it was kind of her insecurities, and she went away, like, over, we had a weekend that we were down, and then she came back and she says, I went shopping this weekend, and basically everything she came back with is everything I was trying to put her in for the last like week and a half. And she's like, I just got it, like I saw myself on camera, I saw what you did, because I was kind of like, this is what. And she's like, and now I love it. And now I embrace it. And she's like, people have been trying to, get me out of what I've been doing for years, but sometimes it just takes a second, sometimes it's just takes a minute to get used to it, or everybody's got stuff in their head about themselves, and whether it's based on body shape or whether it's based on stuff you've been through, everybody's got something that they're carrying around about themselves. And, no one else knows what they're thinking or have gone through, or, maybe we can relate, but it's not the same exact thing. And so, you know, I try to work with people and meet with them where they are, and really always never make people feel bad about themselves. That show used to drive me crazy, What Not to Wear, because I thought they were
Yeah.
so mean. I loved this, like, I know people love it, and that's supposed to be coming back, I think, in a nicer kind of way. But I was like, why do you have to be mean to make somebody
Yeah.
look good? Why?
Yeah.
They already feel bad. That's why
Yes.
they're doing this. Why are we making them feel bad? And so it used to make me so mad, because so I'm super um cognizant of that, like when I work with people, the things that I say and the things that I don't say, because I'm not judging people. They're judging themselves. Like my thing is I'm going to assess what we need to do, but I'm not going to judge what's happening here, because people are harsh on themselves. And I think especially women are hard on themselves, and especially about this, especially with the filters and the things and all the, nobody's real out there.
Abs
Nobody's real out there.
Have you been approached by reality TV shows to be, like, on one of those? Like, as, like, the show about you and the work that you do and follow you around and
I haven't, but if anybody's watching, I'm open to it.
I was gonna say, like, that I would watch the heck out of that show. You're just so, like, adorable and warm and
You. Oh,
fun to
thank
be around and,
you.
like, oh my
Thank
gosh,
you.
somebody needs to do a show about you.
Thank you. I
That
appreciate
would be
that.
amazing. Okay, let's manifest that. It's gonna happen.
All right. Well, then we're manifesting right now.
Yes, that would be
I love
so
it.
cool. So that is something that you'd be open to, though.
Yeah,
That's so
definitely.
cool. I mean, you must know
Bec-
some people that produce reality shows.
I do. I just haven't gone down the path,
You haven't necessarily pitched yourself as one of the
No,
options.
no. Although I do have people telling me, you got to do more of this. Like start a podcast, start of this, start of that, do more on camera.
Yeah.
So I think the universe is working for me. And
Yes,
back
yes,
over here.
yes. 100%. I mean, just the stuff that you shared in this interview today, oh my gosh, there's just like, millions of women that need to know this stuff. And
Oh,
just to
good.
feel normal, like even, where you're just like every woman has trouble finding jeans and every
Yes.
woman feels like she
Yes.
doesn't fit in her own body at times. And every
Yes.
woman needs to feel better and
Yes.
can feel better with her clothing
Mhm.
choices, but they need help, right? Like
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
need help. And
Yeah.
anyways, I'm just so excited to know you and would love to have a styling session with you someday. Do you do a
I
lot of
love that.
remote stuff? Like, do you have any clients in Canada?
I don't, but I can. Yes, I can work remotely. So I do virtual stuff. I
Right.
mean,
Okay.
Howie is, he's Canadian. He goes
Yeah.
to Canada, but
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I can work virtually. Yes.
Right. Okay. Wow, that's fascinating that you just do all these different things. And is there anything else you'd like to leave our Fempreneur listeners with? Business related, life related, anything
I
before we?
think we're all out here doing our best, right? Like just keep going. But I would say this, wake up and put on what makes you feel good. because
Mhm.
it really does change the course of your day. You know, if you're feeling crappy and you put on crappy clothes, guess what? You're not fixing anything. You're going to feel crappy all day long, you
Mhm.
know? And if you wake up and I've had days where I wake up and I'm feeling not so great and I put on that thing and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, no, go change. And I literally change and then all of a sudden the day turns around. So like, just remember that, like they really do. There's an energy that comes with what you put on your body that people feel and that you feel as well. And if you want to have a good day or you want to nail whatever, like dress for it.
I love that. There's an energy that comes with what you put on your body that is so
Definitely.
interesting. I've always been a
Yeah.
person that changes their clothes like 3 to 4 times a day, and when I was a kid, my mom would be like, "Please tell me you didn't put that in the dirty laundry," because of course she's thinking like
Right.
laundry and, electricity and water
Yeah.
and laundry,
Yeah.
so she's thinking, "Why do you change your clothes so bloody often?" And I'm just like, "'Cause I just didn't like that outfit anymore." Like,
Right.
I'm always
Exactly.
changing my I'm still like that.
Yes.
But I think
Well,
that's so
so then you
cool.
understand the energy of it.
Yes, it's a thing.
Yeah. It's a
Nobody's ever
thing.
said that out loud in my presence before. I'm
Yeah.
like, I know this to be true, but I
Yes.
could have never put it into words.
Yeah, it's very true. And then that's why when you work to build a wardrobe that works for you, you're not going to have to change 3 times a day. And you'll always be in that energy that you want to be in, like you building with intention. That's, I guess, the key there is just build with intention and build for the different areas of your life. Like,
Mhm.
I don't wear some things that I wear on the weekends to work, that's okay. Everything doesn't have to look the same.
Yeah,
The through line will help. Remember that,
yeah,
that helps you kind of, because I always feel like as entrepreneurs, everywhere we go, we're our business card and people are going to see you that may be interested in working with you. So you always want to kind of look like presentable and professional, not professional, but you know what I'm saying? Dialed
yes,
in,
dialed in.
not like a
Well, you
completely
said
different
put
person.
together, and I think put together is a really great
Yeah.
way of just kind of
Yeah.
blanket.
Yeah.
Yeah, put
Yeah. Just
together is a nice.
finished and put together, like brush your hair.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, this has been so fun. I
So
have to wrap
fun.
it up because I'm already thinking of more questions I want to ask you, but I'm going to be
Okay.
respectful of your time. What I wanted to say is, or ask you is, where do you hang out on social media the most?
Mostly on Instagram.
Okay,
It's, DMC Styles is where I
okay,
am on Instagram.
perfect.
Yeah, that's the best
Awesome.
place to find, and if I'm doing anything else, you can find me on Instagram talking about wherever else I'm gonna be.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Excellent. And if someone wanted to hire you for a remote or they want to fly
Mhm.
out to LA,
Mhm.
can they book that with you through your website? Can they
Yeah.
DM you on Instagram, like either way, or
Yes.
okay,
Either way, DM me on Instagram, that's the quickest way to get to me, and then, yeah, they can go if they want to just go ahead and book, they can go to my website, dmcstyles.com, and then book that way. But yeah, I
and you
love
can
it.
squeeze them in between Howie Mandel and
Yes.
all your
Yeah.
other celebrity
And
clients.
I can absolutely. And that's the thing is I always know what it looks like. So I know, okay, I may be able to take you, but we may have to start in 3 weeks,
Right.
so it's that kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dina. It was
Thank you so
wonderful
much for
chatting with
having
you.
me. I
Awesome.
loved it. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I'm glad you had fun because I certainly had fun.
I did.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. You can learn more about me. I'm Lindsay Berry at yycfempreneurs.com. We do have a couple of retreats coming up for fempreneurs in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. So check those out. And definitely reach out to Dina if you need styling help, if you need her to be your personal stylist. She is available to elevate your brand. And of course, it's a right up your business.